everyone, and welcome to Sri Lanka's #1 sports channel, the Papare TV. And today we're bringing you a very special interview with a very special person. So if you are following the Sri Lankan rugby scene, you might have already known that Havelock Sports Club, one of the household names when it comes to Sri Lankan rugby, they have collaborated with Flyhisports Academy to begin Sri Lanka's first ever international rugby academy. This is a big move for Sri Lanka because rugby is one of the most popular sports when it comes to Sri Lanka, especially in the schools level, in the club level. I think that's one of the few sports that can actually sell out a stadium. So this is a big move for Sri Lanka, and the person who will be the head coach of this Flyhisports Academy in Sri Lanka in a joint association with Havelock Sports Club, he's joining with me, and he is Mr. Kruger Roach from Australia, a highly acclaimed coach who has produced numerous number of players to the international level, not only in Australia, but in various other countries as well. Mr. Kruger Roach, it's a pleasure to have you here. Welcome to Sri Lanka.
Thank you very much for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here, and it's an honor to come here, and all I can ask is I'm going to be here to do whatever it takes to take Sri Lanka rugby. Look, I've got nothing new to come and offer Sri Lanka, because I totally believe with rugby being around Sri Lanka for 50 years, 150 years, what am I going to come and impart? You know, we've got to find the fabric of Sri Lankan rugby, and then from there we build up from there.
Exactly. So, Mr. Roach, I'll call you Coach. So, Coach, let's first talk a bit about Flyhisports Academy, and let's talk a bit about yourself now. Let's give an introduction to Sri Lankan viewers on who you are.
I'm a very limited coach. Like I said, I'm not coming here to offer any craziness about like that, but my biggest thanks is to the vision from Mr. Cedric, the co-founder for Fly High, because he's someone that casted the vision that I brought into. It's about developing the young players, nurturing the roots so we can have a lot of fruits coming through. So for me, look, my coaching started in 2012, in the subbies rugby down in Australia. However, and then I've never ever wanted to be someone of a coach. Ever through necessity with kids. In 2018, I was fortunate enough to meet a gentleman named Greg Morgan. He was the general manager for Western Sydney Two Blues, and sort of he gave me the head up, and he shared a vision as well, which I bought in, and to fast track like that. So after I finished with Two Blues last year as the president of the club, but it's an amazing club to play for. But we went through as a director of rugby, the director of Colts, went through developing the young players. But the main thing that I got back into helping / coaching is in Western Sydney. There's a lot of young talents there. The struggle is, if you're not fortunate enough to go to the probably right school that, you go into Australia, it's a hard yakka then for you to actually to come and make it in there. So as somebody that to come here, I've seen it with my own eyes. Like today, as we're speaking, number 11, who will be playing for Canada, his name is Nick Ben, is probably one of the kids that came through. And really, look, I don't take any acclaim for his development, but I've got to say, he came through our school, but then really, excelled into, as well as a really young, someone that's like a son to me. His name is Santu Tupo. He'll be he's a 20-year-old kid making an international debut for Tonga, and that's all this weekend, and we're fortunate enough as well. And like I said, my son, who is fortunate enough to be in France right now for his second Olympics. So I've seen rugby as something that can really help as a stepping stone, not only just developing a rugby player, but developing better men, better husbands, and then better fathers. And that's where I see rugby can play a major part in life.
So, making sure that Sri Lanka develops into next level is the whole concept behind Flyhisports Academy, because Sri Lanka, we have, shown a lot of potential in various aspects in 15-a-side rugby, in sevens rugby. I'm not sure whether you saw the games in the Asia Division 1 Championship, which took place like one month ago. So, how much of an importance does it have to make sure that the children, they're involved in rugby from a very young age? How important is it that?
I think you've just hit it on there. We've got to start young. And not to start young to teach them how to tackle hard or how to run hard, but how to enjoy the game. And how, first of all, make sure they have fun. And secondly, that they're safe. And that's my whole purpose is to develop, not from the young players. We're going to need the young coaches to be developed. And then from those coaches, then input to the young players. And then from there, from under 10s, under 12s, under 14s, under 16s, build up to first 15. So that's where we're hoping to come and have an impact on there.
So let's talk a bit about the coaching as well. I mean, it's very important that the children, the fact that they get improved, they keep on improving with the age levels. And it's also important to have the right coaches as well. And that's something that you will also focus on, right? I mean, more than, you will focus on making sure the players develop from the grassroots to the senior level. But I think you will also focus on the coaching area in Sri Lanka as well.
I think, Mr. Cedric and that have organized even a psychologist to come, because the psychology of coaching is super, super important, especially when we're dealing with those young age guys that they could come through. So there's a lot of work that we're doing on that space as well, to working on just the mental toughness of the coach and just interaction with the young people that we deal with. Biggest compliment for me out there today. So I had the young boy that we were training that is not as skillful at catching and things like that. So he dropped the ball a couple of times, and the other boys absolutely turned around and scolded him. And I was going, oh my goodness. So I pulled them aside and I said, look, that's not allowed. So after our team, more than half of the boys said, it was great to learn that we need to back up our boys after they make a mistake instead of us yelling at him. Which, if whatever I can impact on that, if that's the impact I'm going to have on the kids, I've done my job halfway there. But that's where I really, really want to make an impact, through the psychology of coaching, instead of just working on skills and tactics and strategies, but just working on really the mental side of rugby.
Exactly. I mean, in any sport, I think, coach, the psychological aspect, it's really important, right? I mean, if you're not there in the psychological aspect, I don't think you can actually bring up your 100%, isn't it? So it's very important in every sport to make sure that the players, they have the right psychological level. And coach, he will definitely work on that, making sure that the players get groomed to work with his fellow teammates in the right way. I mean, it's not about scolding, it's not about shouting, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's about making sure that you collaborate with your teammates and get the job done. That's the most important thing, right? So let's talk a bit about your impression on Sri Lankan rugby, coach. What are your thoughts on Sri Lankan rugby at the moment? I mean, the schools rugby league is happening at the moment. It's one of the most famous sports leagues in every year. So your thoughts on Sri Lankan rugby scene at the moment?
I've got to say, I was very fortunate enough to share a couple of days at TS school. And I can tell you with Sri Lankan, what I've seen is the young kids, is they're hungry. And that's something you don't need skills to tell you, and you can see it in their eyes. I was fortunate enough to spend with the under 12s, under 14s, and even their first 15 team yesterday. And it's so much potential. And, it's amazing what the coaches are doing too. Like one of the things, I went up to a coach yesterday, because Sri Lankans are not as big as, we've got to learn to play as Sri Lankans. We cannot teach Sri Lankans how to play like Fijians. It's just a different body type, different mentality, different understanding. So what I've seen these coaches is they're molding these players to play like Sri Lankans. And that's probably something that I want to come here. I said, I don't want to put anything new into that. I'm going to come and learn what's the fabric of Sri Lankan rugby. And then for me then to add my 1 cent that I can happen there, then I'll be grateful. But if I can't, then I apologize. Then I'll do my best to find other ways to get it better.
So if you go back to Flyhisports Academy, so let's talk a bit about the initial plan, like the plan that is coming up for all the children who are planning to join. So that I think it will be a good message for all the parents, especially to make their kids enroll with the program.
We've got some high caliber coaches coming along, and it's not about bringing superstar coaches. We want to bring coaches that understand the vision of Flyhisports. That's what I want to bring. I don't want to bring all the coaches just to come here and get but I wanted to come to see the vision from Mr. Cedric, which is really give back to rugby, not give back to just a Havelock school club or to give back to the DS school, but to give back to rugby as a whole. And then from there, then I think everybody's a winner there. If we give back to rugby in general, instead of just focusing on one part or one club or one division or one things like that. That's what I'm hoping to do.
So if you want to make your son or even a daughter one of the best upcoming rugby players in Sri Lanka, Flyhisports Academy is the place to be. Coach Kroger Roach will be there. Some more great coaches will fly in as well. We're not allowed to reveal the names at the moment. So if we talk a bit about the Australian rugby scene, Mr. Kruger, what do you think it stands out in Australia? I mean, Australia, they have reached a very different level when it comes to rugby. They have won the World Championship as well. One of the few nations, because I mean, in rugby, winning the World Cup is not an easy task.
Well, I'm going to say the high performance side of Australian rugby is really, really good. You know, there's some really, really capable people. Joe Smith as the head of coach now for what a great appointment. You know, like be good to say. But I think the biggest lacking where there is now is probably similar to everywhere in life, is the grassroots. You know, rugby league has done a really, really good platform in Australia. So it's a fight not only with rugby league, but it's the amount of resources available. Now we have Australian, Aussie rules and things like that. So there's a lot more options for the kids. So the problem is when we provide them with too many options, then they don't choose. Then they'll end up not. But as rugby and the high performance in Australia, they're doing really, really well in the people, in the structure that they set. However, we've just got to work on the grassroots to make sure that supply doesn't run out. And that's where sometimes, when they've been given the options, is that we go back and buy the overs from rugby league and things like that. But I think if we just work on nurturing some of the kids coming through, then I think we'll be great. And there's a focus on private schools where they're doing an amazing job. But I think if we can just move it a bit, open the door a little bit to some other schools, then I think then that can create more competition and more rugby union players coming up.
Exactly. So, as I mentioned earlier, we have Coach Kroger Roach and we have a lot to talk on. But before that, we will head to a short commercial break and we will be back. Stay tuned to Sri Lanka's number sports channel, the Papare TV.
Catch the excitement real time. Be up to date with it all. Let us capture your milestones. Get it sizzling hot off the turf. Hear the experts break it down. Dig deep into the nitty-gritties. Be inspired by their greatness. Relive all the scintillating action.
Welcome back, everyone. After the commercial break to Sri Lanka's number one sports channel, the Papare TV. And joining with me is the head coach of Flyhisports Academy, Sri Lanka's first ever international rugby academy, Kroger Roach. So, Coach, let's move back to Flyhisports Academy. You told me that it's been 2 years since the academy began. And let's talk a bit about the whole academy and how much they have supported you in making sure that things go smoothly.
Oh, look, I think even when we arrived here, it's all, trying to understand how Sri Lankan is. Like, even though Mr. Cedric, he lives in Australia now as well. So, apparently the negotiations between them and Havelock has been in a couple of years, but we've just now launched, so all the paperwork, all the back notes, all the contracts and all that, something that's been revisited just the last couple of months, to get the dots, the right I's and the T's and things like that. But that's the vision that's been coming. It's the first time we've come out to Australia to do that. So my whole conversation to Mr. Cedric is, you can bring in, like, we've heard that I've learned that Ben Collins has been here for a year, has been the national coach and things like that. So I don't want to do that. For me, they're very, very high performance coach, they're things like that. I totally believe the work needs to start from the ground up. And that's where Flyhisports is focusing on. Really, really develop our under 10s, under 12s, under 14s right up into. He's also, Mr. Singh, we're also looking at international competition that we're looking to reward some of the top performers so at least then we can take them and just to measure up where they are. Probably one of the main thing we're trying to look forward to next year, not this year. So there's a global sevens rugby that happens, youth global games in New Zealand every year towards in September. So that's something that our academy now is starting to focus, so that gather some resources, have a look at some of the players, because what we can do then as an academy, we can expose these players in the national stage. And if once we get exposed, it teaches them with experience as well, not only just traveling, but being in a foreign country. So, and they know how to adapt to different weathers and things like that. So that's where sort of the Fly High Sports is focusing on, is looking at not only bringing the players from Sri Lanka to expose to the world, but also bringing the world to Sri Lanka. So, really, really looking at develop some great competitions here. And that's like, I know that's a long term, looking at, going to the proper schools, going to the clubs and finding the times that we can fit in with Sri Lankan rugby, so we can have, better competitions and things like that. And to bring in, so instead of, only a few traveling to a different destination, we bring a whole lot of other guys to come here. Yeah. So that's where we're hoping to do.
So basically, I mean, yes, you need the training, but it's very important, right, to make sure that the players, they get the experience, get the exposure playing with players from all around the world. Yeah. That's really important, because I think, you mentioned that, the conversation has been going on for a long time with Flyhisports and Havelock Sports Club. I mean, rugby in Sri Lanka was actually not being in that active after the corona pandemic, and I think we resumed in 2022. To be honest, we had 2 seasons. I mean, 2020 and 2021, the school rugby season didn't happen, the club rugby season didn't happen. So basically, some of the players, they missed 2 years, 2 valuable years in their rugby journey. Some of the players, they miss out on the opportunity of playing the senior level. Yeah. For some of them, they get only 1 year to play at the senior level, and they miss out on that. So, rugby is really huge here, Coach. You'll probably get the chance to watch some games in the upcoming weeks. So, how long will you be here, Coach?
So, if it's up to Cedric, I'll be staying here right now. But I've got to still have a family back. So, we'll be here for another 2-3 weeks. I've got another coach arriving on Sunday night. We will, in time, it's a very, 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 very high performance coach. So you'll join me. But it's what I really want to illustrate is not about us coming in and giving anything new. What I really want to come here is we got to come and learn what Sri Lankan rugby is all about. And then from there, we can maybe adjust, mold, or just a little bit, not to do any major changes. Like I went through a scrum session yesterday with the DS first 15. And the first thing I said to the coaches is, look, I'm not going to come here and change anything. We've got to just work, if we can improve the binding a little bit, if we can improve, but it's the little step by step. Because if we want to come and just implement something from overseas, I can probably just about guarantee it's not going to work.
So how impressed you were with the DS side? Because they are one of the top 5 sides maybe this year in the Schools Rugby League. They're unbeaten at the moment in their group. So how impressed you were with the boys? I've
got to say, the attitude is amazing. Like I can look, they're physically, and this is where, Sri Lanka is coming to that of age, because the kids are getting stronger. They're getting bigger. It's just a matter of time, especially with your population. There's a lot there, opportunity. I know cricket is very, very high here, and soccer, but then what after that, and I think rugby offers a really, really another platform that can help some of the junior kids and to grow into men and women to go into sports. Women's rugby right now is probably the biggest growing facet in sports in the world right now. And that's where I'm hoping to come and impart that as well. So I'm actually coaching at Briars right now with the women's team as well. So and that's where I can come in now and sort of help and give my little 2 cents to the family.
So, Coach, if we talk about Sri Lanka rugby as a whole, from what you have seen, where do you think the potential really is, whether it's in 7s or whether in 15-a-side rugby? What's your thought?
Oh, I love that. See, I'm a bit biased. I love 7s. I might not look like a 7s player, but, I really love 7s. And this is what I'm using sevens into. It's a great platform to start, especially coming into rugby union. Yeah, so a lot of guys after under 20s in Australia, they become disgruntled with with rugby league. If they haven't been contracted, then they move across. What I find is coming from a 13-man to a 15-man game, it's too complicated because of the different strategies and the different continuity of things. But however, if we allow them to come into a 7 space, it's way easier for them to, because they'll have a little bit more space, but it'll teach them to react quicker, faster, and they're even stronger in that way. And with sevens as Olympic sports, it's a no-brainer. And to have a look, I can see that Sri Lankans have a speed game, because they're not built to play a strong game. So I think sevens is probably something really, really close by. And you guys have achieved it. You've played in the Hong Kong sevens for years, But, whatever happened there, I reckon that's a place that, with the help of the academy, and if it's allowed by the Sri Lankan Rugby, we can all win. This is something that we can help not only just the academy and developing the players, but Sri Lankan Rugby as a whole as well.
Especially in sevens rugby, even the last Commonwealth Games, Sri Lanka actually gave a good fight to England. It was a very close game, that sevens encounter, and that was in England as well. So, as I mentioned earlier as well, Sri Lanka, they have shown signs that they can maybe hang up with the big boys, especially in the sevens arena. So, it's a really great achievement, even with boys from the ES to have a session with you boys. The Giant Vijayaratnas, the Umagaliagis, they are some of the best players in this season. So, them getting that opportunity, getting that exposure to work with you, I think that's quite a great achievement for all the players. So now we talked about the importance of sevens rugby, but if we move to the 50-side game as well, it's important in sevens game as well, the physicality aspect. You are an expert in that field, the physicality aspect of rugby. So even in the schools arena, there are some very good teams when it comes to the physicality of the game. They are very good with the rolling balls, with the line outs. Teams like Royal College, Trinity, they are very good in that aspect of the game. So what when it comes to the other teams, there are teams that will actually struggle, because that's an area that Sri Lanka really needs to work on. So your advice to the teams to get to that next level when it comes to the physicality game, because most of the time that's an area that the teams who are really fast, but they actually get behind in the 15-side game because of that. So your advice to teams who are struggling with the physicality.
I think, that comes with time. You'll probably sometimes go through a period that you have to develop your players to get the physique up and things like that. But I think in every moment and every situation, you can, like, if you're looking at playing, a very small team, probably will be a lot smarter to play a lot more the territory then. So instead of having them in our 22 where they can actually maul and things like that, maybe play down their fields there, like working on, as a 10 to play, really play, plunge the corners. Let's get there as a defense. Yes, as a collective, we might be able to hold them because of a bigger team. But if we come in as individuals, then we might then be able to, just to cut off their space and things like that, and allow them to, for example, to maybe kick the ball back out so we can have the ball now instead of them just giving it to them and things like that. But like strategies like that, it's all different in every individual teams and things like that. And it, depending of what their strength and their, like physicality might not be the only, but if we have, they lack the speed as well, then we've got to adjust again what we need to do in those teams and things like that.
Exactly. When we talk about the whole Asian region, coach, Japan, they have moved on to a different level at the moment. They're like miles above at the moment. The second team is Hong Kong at the moment in Asia. And I think in the recent junior championships, Japan hammered 100 against Hong Kong. So that's the level that Japan have managed to move on. So I think Sri Lanka needs to go on to level. I think the fact that Sri Lanka needs to work with people like you, I think that's really important in my honest opinion. Because Sri Lanka, so as you mentioned, it's about making sure that we improve from the grassroots level. And when we had the chat before the program, you mentioned how Sri Lanka, one of the main issues that you see in Sri Lanka is that Sri Lanka actually try to work from the top of the, let's say, the food chain, from the top of the food chain, isn't it?
Well, I guess in every organization, like whatever the premier team and things like that, or it looks like it's doing well, it sort of, hides if there's any other problems underneath. So And it's not just in Sri Lanka. I think it's a lot of that a lot of people are trying to look for the quick fix, the band-aid fix and things like that. And sometimes we will try and put the resources from the top down by buying a good coach, buying in players to come in, but it doesn't fix the problem that what's coming from the bottom up is what we need to nurture and things like that. Because then it doesn't just last for 1, 2, 3 years, but it lasts for 10, 20, and then it's an endless result. Create competition, and it will create more people then to strive into the next level. And, you'll find that it's not an easy thing to do. And I like to say now the answer is not about me, and the answer is about Flyhisports. What we bring them as a collective, not only the administrations, the vision from Mr. Cedric's, but also the different coaches we're going to bring in. And the secret, guys, is not about the coaches we bring in. It's the local coaches that we have here that will buy into the program. Then we can work together to not only we learn from them, but to make them better coaches, then in turn for them to coach the kids better.
So the message is clear. Flyhisports Academy, they are here to make sure that Sri Lanka breaks into the next level, to make sure that Sri Lanka, they improve from the grassroots level to the senior level. That's the message out from Flyhisports Academy, and that's their mantra, to make sure that Sri Lanka improves from the grassroots level and takes it to the world stage, and Sri Lanka becomes a nation that actually can compete with any nation in both the formats, isn't it, Coach?
100%.
So I think the Flyhisports Academy is the perfect place for your child to make sure that they work on their game and improve their skills going to the next level. So if you are interested to make sure that your child enrolls in the program, you can contact Alex through 077 100 7379, or you can actually register on www.flyhiacademy.com. You can register through the website as well. So, Coach, one last question. What is your message to all the upcoming ruggerites in Sri Lanka?
Let's work together. Probably the main thing for us is, please, we're not the expert to come and give everything new. Let's work together as a society, as a club, and as a country. That from then we can have a better platform for our young people growing up. And come into Flyhisports. Love to meet you. One thing I can guarantee, if you come through Flyhisports, I'll teach you how to love not only playing rugby, but enjoy rugby. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Coach. It's a pleasure to have you.
Likewise. Sorry for the attire. We just finished training, so thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, much course. So thank you very much everyone for joining with us, and we need to give a lot of credit out to Havelock Sports Club for making sure that this collaboration with Flyhisports Academy became a reality. A huge credit goes out to Havelock Sports Club, and we hope everything that Flyhisports Academy does here in Sri Lanka succeeds in the best level possible. So thank you very much once again everyone for joining with us, and make sure you stay in Sri Lanka's #1 sports channel, the Papare TV. We will be bringing you all the live action from the Dialogue Schools Rugby League 2024, all the live action, and I hope to see Coach at some of the games as well.
I'm hoping to come and have a look.
So make sure to catch up with all the games on Sri Lanka's #1 sports channel, the Papare TV. Thank you very much once again for joining with us. Have a very good day.